Alright, so here we go, start again. My name is Carin Nguyen, and my joke in the industry is that my name is actually spelled Carin Nguyen. So if you see that name, you know, sometimes we're like, oh, that's how you say her name. Hey, Veronica. So my name is Carin Nguyen. This is my husband, Son. And special treat today, we've been married 17 years, we have 4 kids, but this is the first time we're actually co-teaching. So we've been in business together different times, and raising kids and running a household. So we'll see how today goes. You guys are our test pilot on teaching together.
It might be the last time.
It could be the last time, because I like to stay married, so we'll see how that goes. I'll choose the marriage over the co-teach anyway. I think it'll be fine because we co-parent and co-lead a team. And so that's what we do. We co-lead a team. It's the Carin Nguyen Real Estate Network. We have 2 locations. One is based out of Litchfield Park and one is in Tempe. We did just a little under 300 sales last year for about 77 million. And Son's role on the team has actually changed, throughout the years. He's been in the real estate industry for 7 years. He came to us before from banking, and we actually used to own a brokerage. And when we owned the brokerage, I started that up while he was still in corporate America, and he just kind of hit that ceiling in corporate America. And I think a lot of us understand what that looks like. If you're in this room, you come to real estate for a different level of freedom. Hopefully it's not the freedom to be broke, because I see us, ditch that schedule to go, I can make my own schedule. None of us in this room, of course. And he was very successful at Chase, and I said, hey, why don't you come over here and help us do what you do and coach and lead your people in the banking world, and come do that with us in our real estate company. And at the time, I think you had 12 or 13 locations. So he's a district manager, so the manager to the branch managers, okay? So several hundred different employees. And I think maybe a year into coming to the brokerage, I said, I think we should close the brokerage. He's like, what? I just left my 6-figure really nice income, and you're telling me we're gonna close the brokerage? And I said, yeah, I think we should close the brokerage. And the why behind that really was, when we started the brokerage, I didn't have the right model. I had coaching, but it was more on an individual production basis and not really on how to establish a company. So the economics were broken to start, and I tried to make that shift. But really, the more I looked at running a real estate team, I said, you know what? This actually can fill my emotional bucket and my economic one. And so I said, I think we should pivot and go all in on our real estate team instead of having that divided focus. And so that's what we did. And we moved over to Keller Williams, because the more I looked at it, I'm just telling you the story. I love MHG. The more that we looked at Keller Williams, the more it was in alignment to what we had already going in our team. So we just said, well, let's go here, which is some of the same reasons you guys have elected to be here. There's systems and models and training and resources that you go, this makes a lot of sense. It's gonna help me grow my business. And so that's what we did, and we've been focusing on the team ever since. Okay.
Wow.
So I wrote down, because I thought it was important to be clear with what our goal is today for you, and I wrote, it's to provide you with a process that we use for open house prospecting in our sphere. And so we look at that, and I really think there's 3 main lead generation, we call them levers, or buckets, however you want to consider that. One being open house, one is prospecting, and the other one is sphere. And one of the mistakes we made when we started the real estate team, when I started in real estate, I was a prospector. My first job ever in life was cold calling out of a phone book for a photography studio. So I have no problem picking up the phone, and I thought, hey, this is what everyone loves to do in real estate, and guess what? No, we don't, right? We don't love that at all, actually. And so we were very limited in the funnel that we created for people that would want to join our real estate team, because there's some really fantastic agents out there that can build a very successful business. And as we all know, there's more than one way to skin the cat in this business, right? And be very successful and have a big business. So we said, well, all right, instead of being just so prospecting based, let's appeal to other personality and behavioral styles, and let's create the process for open house and also working the sphere, because I think that we have some powerful processes that we can give in that way. And so for us, for you, it's giving our agents, we do give our agents leads in addition to that, but we look at the relationship or partnership with the agents in our team very much like a partnership. And so when somebody comes in, I kind of make the joke, don't show up to our potluck with just a fork and a knife and, their handout every day going, what is it that you're going to give to me? Do we have anybody in the room that actually is on a team or runs a team, or are you mostly individual agents? Okay, so a couple of team people in here, so you can jive with what I'm saying, when it comes to that. Now, leads is a big piece of it. However, I've also come to realize and learn when you know how to generate some of your own business, it makes you fanatically wonderful at the conversion process. And when you don't, you just get the lead and you go, hey, these leads suck. You're like, oh, really? That happened to me in my real estate business. And I was like, really, something must have changed in the business. And then lo and behold, it wasn't really that. It's just how we feel about the lead, right? So the mindset that we have about the leads is very, very important. And so when we teach people how to fish and they understand how to generate some of that business, when they actually get the fish, they know what to do with it and they can convert that at a much higher level. So we really are under the strong belief that it's a 50-50. You're gonna self-generate and we're gonna provide you all the resources to do that. You know, we pay to put the open house signs out. We pay quite a bit of money to do client events for their sphere to come to. We give them the scripts, the dialers, you know, anything that you can think of by way of resources. So there's a lot of costs that we have on that, but there is more doing on their part to generate that business. And then in return, we say, okay, great, you're converting. In exchange for that, now we're gonna give you leads, right? So I just wanna share that mindset because I think it's important. And then I also wrote, there's an actual mindset associated with high lead conversion. And that really is, I'm not trying to sell you. And what I also mean by that is, a lot of us have an apprehension of when somebody walks into an open house, when we pick up the phone to call somebody, that we feel salesy, and that feels slimy, right? I'm very nasally, I'm getting over my sickness, my nasaliness is bothering me, if that's a word. So it's very much a mindset that we're trying to sell somebody something. And I'm under the belief of, you know what, we're not trying to sell anybody anything. Does anyone know how many agents we have in the or in Maricopa County right now?
40,000.
It's actually 70,000 if you count the inactive. It's over 70,000. And I think it just hit over 50,000 for the people that were actually active. Okay, so the point there is everybody knows a real estate agent. There's a lot of different agents, and I think what separates us is that I don't know if I can help you. What I do know is I'm gonna be genuinely curious about what your situation is. Like, I'm 5 years old. I'm gonna go back to being 5 years old, and I say that because when you're 5, I mean, if you have 5-year-old, or if you've had a child that's been 5, how many questions do they ask, right? Why? Why do we do that? Why, right? And so it's just really important to be genuinely curious about a person's situation, and I'm gonna have to really understand why they're trying to do what it, like, first of all, what's your goal, and why is that important to you, and I really wanna draw out the emotion to it. Okay, so we're gonna get into more of that today. And an example I could give you with that is sometimes somebody would say an emotion or a motivation is, well, they need to relocate from one state to the next. And I go, that's not their motivation, that's their reason. What's the motivation? What's gonna happen if they don't actually get this house sold? Oh, they're gonna have a double house payment, and they're, all right, well, what if the house doesn't sell? Would they rent it out? I'm gonna, really draw that information out because I think it's important to understand all that. So I give you this because it is really important as we talk through these different things. We all have been to a lot of different classes. We hear new tactics or strategies, some of them not so new, and I can tell you the big difference is gonna be in your mindset on how you approach it. So if you look at that and like, hey, I'm just the lifeline. I'm not gonna be the perfect match for everybody. I'm just gonna offer my help. I'm very clear on the value that I offer, and it's gonna be up to them whether they take it or not. If I can hang up the phone, walk away from the conversation in the open house or what have you, I'm gonna be very clear on what the value was, and did I do a good job explaining that to them. And if the answer is yes, I'm gonna be okay that they said no. I can't save everybody, right? I can't save everybody. And frankly, the other second part I would say to that is, do you actually have the avatar? And Sam's gonna get, I think, more into, are you gonna touch on that at all today? Is that crossover? Okay. The avatar of who it is that you're trying to work with. Who is the ideal client, so that when you have somebody, this is not in alignment with who I'm trying to help. And I think if you've been in the business for any tenure, I mean, like, if you've ever worked with a few clients, you would know that some of them can give or take from our emotional wealth. Right. Okay? Emotional wealth bucket, right? And so I am, mature 15 years in the business, that when we first get started, we're not looking at the emotional wealth bucket at all. We're just looking at, I need a deal. I gotta pay my mortgage, I gotta feed my kids, I have to make a house payment. And I think if we can be very clear, is this person gonna help fill my emotional wealth bucket? That's actually more important than the economic one, because it's impossible to build your economic wealth bucket if the emotional one is depleted and it's not where it should be. However, the byproduct of having a high emotionally filled bucket is economics, right? The economic wealth will be there, okay? So I think it's really important. We've had these crazy clients, right? And they steal from you, and then it's kind of like, I call it the bad boyfriend, where you go, but I have so much time and invested in them, I'm just gonna change them, or I'm just this far in, I just gotta find them the right house, or we just gotta get through this inspection, or we just gotta, and it robs you from being a good mother, a good father, a good agent, you know, to the rest of your people. And the other piece that I wrote down was, our mission in our real estate team is to transform the lives of great-hearted people through homeownership. Okay, one of the key words there is great-hearted. So if you're not going to be a great-hearted person, you may, you're definitely going to rob from my emotional bucket, and then you might refer me other crazy, not great-hearted people. So now I'm building a database that looks like that, and that's not a sustainable business either. The other piece is, I don't take it personally. I realize, you know, just like if you look at that as like relationships, right? Husband and wives, I'm not the right wife for everybody, right? And he's not the right husband for everybody. The good news is, with clients, there's more that match, right, than in this one-on-one in a marriage or relationship. However, there's a lot of people that are not a good match. And so I think we just have to be okay, like, it's not a rejection. We don't take it personally, you just go, that's just not a match. I mean, you can recognize it too, but we just kind of get butthurt about that. So we're not taking that personally, it's just, hey, you weren't really a match for me, and that's why this isn't gonna work. And we're okay with that. The other part is our vision is to create the most incredible legacies possible. And so I wrote a little note, hopefully for you guys to make a note of this, and it's that every yes that you say to somebody who doesn't match who you want to be working with, that fills that emotional wealth bucket, is a no to somebody that would fill it. So every time we say yes to one thing, we say no to something else. And we don't see it that way. We're just like, wow, you know, it's kind of that abundance versus scarcity mindset. And when you don't have deals, you're like, okay, or you don't have enough deals, you're going, all right, you put anybody in the seat. But if you said no to that person, you'll keep looking until you find that right person, and then they actually give you energy, they give you that emotional wealth, and now you really love what you do instead of going through this funk of like, man, I don't even know if I should be doing this, and they make you question your self-worth and your confidence as an agent, you know, all these just different things that are really powerful. And I just really wanted to start with that piece of it because I think it's important as we get into the tactical stuff. If you don't have the right mindset about your business, all of the stuff that we're going to share with you really is not going to matter. So hopefully that gives you a different frame of reference when you're going out and getting in front of people, and you feel comfortable and confident, you know, picking up the phone or having those conversations at the open house. What we didn't really talk about was who's going to go first. Actually, no, we did. I lied. I'm fuzzy. You're going to kick us off to set the tone of, you know, the objectives.
Yeah. So just for the record, I wasn't the bad boyfriend.
Yeah.
That guy. So Carin's gonna get into our open house process, but I wanted to lay the groundwork on the things that we do prior to the open house. I think that will be really beneficial and have a lot of value for you guys. Okay.
And just so you know, they have that. I see that they have it in front of them. It says objectives with buyers and sellers.
So that's what I'm gonna go over. So when I got into the business, obviously we've been married for quite some time.
How long?
For 17 years. Okay.
I
have that tattoo. So anyway, so I learned the business through osmosis through the time that we were together. When I did leave banking and jump into real estate, I was very prospecting based also through my previous experience. So one of the first things that I wanted to jump into and get really good at before I would sit down and coach our agents is making those calls myself. So I started with just listed, just sold calls, right? So prior to us listing a property, usually we would do an open house immediately. So I would do the just sold calls, or I'm sorry, just listed calls, right? And I made hundreds of calls. I'm up to thousands of calls as of today. But the first, I would say 50 were brutal, like absolutely brutal. I got hammered. And the way my brain works is I'm very systematic in how I approach things. And so when I would get on the phone and they would shoot me down, I would be at a loss of how I could create value or give them value. And so I went and I sat down and I started just writing out things that I wanted to achieve and the things that I could provide value in. Okay, so what you guys have this sheet in front of you, the first question I ask myself is, what is the objective and what is the goal and what's my intention on making this call? So the first thing I wrote down is set a listing appointment, right? Obviously, I wasn't that smart at the time. So I wrote that down. I said, okay, great. If I can't get the listing appointment, what is the next objective, right? And that was a preview appointment. So 1A is preview appointment, 1B would be the CMA. Because I leveraged the CMA to get into the home for the preview appointment. Okay, so just I would say, you know, I understand you're not quite looking to sell right now, but what I would like to do is come out and take 15 or 20 minutes of your time and put eyes on your property to see some of the upgrades and some of the different things that you've done to your house. So at least I can give you a range of what your house would sell for, right? So that would get me into the door. And I know once I got into the door, I would create rapport, I would connect with them. I would be able to give them additional value on what things they could do to the home to increase the value of the home. Folks weren't quite ready at that time. Some folks were, that I was able to switch their time frame. And the folks that weren't, I just had a really good follow-up plan for them and eventually came back and listed their home. What I also found was that because I was willing to come out and provide value to them, I was getting referrals from them before we even listed their home. Okay? So I used, again, the preview appointment with the CMA. Now if I struck out with the setting the appointment and I struck out with the preview and the CMA, we have a tool what we call Market Snapshot. And that's something that we would send out an email to them and it would just give them all the homes that were listed and all the homes that were sold in their neighborhood. So again, I'm just providing value to them. Go ahead.
So Market Snapshot, is that from a CRM?
Market Snapshot is a separate, it's not a CRM.
It's to top producer.
Is it top producer Market Snapshot? That's my question, I should have just asked it.
Yep.
Do you find use in that?
So what we did find use in is that marketing piece, right? So once we set them up, they would get an email from us on a monthly basis that was branded. And it gave me an opportunity for the folks that were semi-interested for me to call back and have an excuse for that call, right? Hey, Carin, I sent you out a Market Snapshot last month. I know you've received it, just wanted to reach out to see if you have any additional questions about the information and the data of what I sent out. By the way, has anything changed in your scenario or situation? Are you still looking at 6 months out, or is it closer to when you would like to sell?
Did you use email or snail mail for that?
Email. Yep, we'd sign them directly on the site. Okay. Yes, sir?
No, the reason I asked is I've been in top producer platform for 5 years now. And I'm just looking at the snapshot, just literally looking at it.
Okay.
See if it adds value.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool. As long as, I take that back, it's a great tool if you're proactive at calling.
Okay.
Right? I believe there's lots of things you can do out there, but it's more effective if you're going to pick up the phone. And that's our strategy around that piece of it. Okay. So the Market Snapshot was an additional piece of value we were able to provide for them. Again, if I completely struck out with that, I always ended every single call, no matter if it's a recruiting call, a client call, if I'm at the grocery store talking to somebody, I always end the conversation with, who do you know that I should know that's looking to buy or sell real estate, right? That's just a numbers game. If I'm making, you know, 150 dials and I talk to 25 people or 30 people, at least I took 25 or 30 shots at asking for a referral.
I think it's important too to point out there, because we've had that script for as long as I can remember, and yet when we hear people on our team, they would say, do you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell in real estate? And we're like, not what is on the script. It's very different than the who do you know that I should know, because that goes to a different part of somebody's brain. If you ask a yes or no question, they're gonna say no. If you ask who do you know, it increases your chances. It doesn't mean you're gonna get an answer 100% of the time, but it does have them go to a different part of the brain, so you do increase the chances of getting somebody.
Yeah, and something that's not on here that I talk to our agents a lot about is prospecting is not easy, right? Nobody likes to prospect.
Right.
Like I've done most of my professional life, and and I can still tell you I don't like it, right? I still get the butterflies until I make that first or second dial, and then I get into the groove. So I'm constantly playing mind games with myself, right? That drunk monkey, that self-talk. So what I found is I needed to identify a win after each call. Whether it be I was able to go through my script, whether it be I got 3 no's and I pushed and I got a 4th no. So with this, if I went through all 5, right, and I got nothing out of it, that 6th bullet point that I would give you is that the win in that is that you got through all 6, right? And you made an additional dial, that's an additional at-bat, and you're gaining experience from each and every call. My first call till the last call I made yesterday, I know I'm better yesterday than the first time I picked up the phone. And that's a win, right? And that's something that you guys have to mentally condition yourself for. And that's a huge piece.
Like W-I-N or N-G-U-I-N?
Both. So it's a win-win situation.
It's a win-win.
Thank you for that. I will give you your money later. Thank you for setting me up.
Yeah.
So the just sold is very similar to that, right? If you look at our just sold and just listed script, the only difference is that front end intro, the body of the script is exactly the same. So when our agents come to the team, either or script works, right? Just listed, just sold. Carin will go through kind of the process that we go through, but on a higher level, what we do is once we list the home, we're going to do the just listed call. We'll do the open house. We'll make open house calls once we have the open house prior, and then we'll door knock day of, right? And then once we sell the house, we're making calls again. So these folks are hearing from us multiple times for every single property, so we're maximizing each listing that we are taking. Yes, ma'am?
So you do just listed calls instead of sending out to the neighborhood that you just listed that house?
Yeah, what we'll do is the day of the open house, we're gonna door knock, and we're gonna talk to folks around the neighborhood, but we do not send anything out marketing-wise prior.
So when you door knock, do you give them a just listed of that particular address?
We do have a little postcard that we create, but I'm not a big fan of having anything in my hand, because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to have conversations, right? Like, I don't even carry business cards, actually, so if you ask me for a business card, I don't have one, just because I don't have my phone. But usually, if I'm in an open house or if I'm at a networking event, right, I'll say, I'm sorry,
Hey,
what's...
don't steal my whole part.
I'm gonna pause. We'll have Carin talk about that. Yeah.
Well, there goes Coach Ichi.
That's right.
No, we're still good.
We're done.
That means we're still good.
All right. Yes.
So I have a question.
Thank
How
you.
do you get the phone numbers of the people around
Yeah,
the
that's
just
a great question. So we use Mojo. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Mojo, and we just use their neighborhood search system. You can just pay I'm not sure how much it is, but you can
I
just
think
pull.
it's $50 a month.
Yeah,
It's somewhere like $50 a month.
And then we have a virtual assistant that pulls the numbers for each of our agents and loads the list in there for them.
You can also get the data through Coll Realty Resource. Is another one to get data. So if you just wanted data and didn't want the dialer info, it's Coll, C-O-L-E, Realty Resource. And same thing, you put in an address and you can put in there how many, like the 200 homes closest proximity to that.
Do you have a concern about scrubbing, or do you just say sorry to everybody who says I'm on a no call?
I'm not selling you anything, I'm just telling you, I'm inviting you to an open house.
Okay.
So,
That's just
yeah. So I call everybody.
So, have you ever run into a situation or a problem, back when I would knock around open houses or stuff, or sending out a just sold flyer, that some neighbors are posting that they're a city code, especially Scottsdale, that prohibits door knocking? Have you run into any negative flack on that?
I mean, you have to.
If you're gonna do a gated community, you might get into more trouble.
I've done gated communities.
No objections.
I've done hundreds, probably thousands of door knocks with our agents and myself personally, and we've had a couple of mean folks, right? Like, but the most thing that I'm most afraid of is dogs, right? So,
Biting.
yeah. So, haven't had major issues, but again, you have to check with the particular area that you're working in. But
I think it goes back to like when you say no solicitation or, you know, do not call list, I'm not seeing it as a solicitation. If it says specifically not to door knock in there, I haven't seen that, so if it says specifically not to door knock, like don't door knock us here somewhere as you enter the community, I may not, but, I mean, for as many millions of houses there are in Phoenix, I know there's a lot that don't have that, so I probably would just.
I think that usually if they do have a signpost, it usually refers to solicitation.
Yeah, it says not to solicit, but again, I'm not selling you anything, I'm inviting you, so I ignore that, because that doesn't apply to me.
I have a follow-up question and information.
Okay.
With regard to, what if you're not, they won't let you do an open house because they're just those listers, or those sellers. Just listed, still not considered solicitation in your point? Okay.
No, 'cause I'm just wanting to let you know
City of
my
Scottsdale
information.
has ordinances including, you are not allowed to do anything other than drop off a door hanger at all, unless it's a political or religious type of thing that has freedom of speech things behind it.
Yep.
Unless you go down to the city months in advance, I believe,
So
and
everyone's
get
gonna
3
run, I
days
get it, I
set
get it.
up and pay your thing.
Everyone's gonna
and
run their
that's-
business differently, and
that's
so
just the law.
my risk tolerance
I've never
is
had any
different.
problem either.
Yeah, my risk tolerance
I've
is
never had
different,
any
so I'm
problem
more
either,
like,
but
I'm gonna
it's
do
there.
it, yeah.
To his
Thanks for
point.
forgiveness later.
Yeah.
Kinda?
Yeah.
Never permission.
Yeah, I'm not gonna really ask for permission, and I'm just gonna beg for forgiveness if I need to. However, you know, you would need to know what the penalties are, cause, you know, there are some serious
My ex
penalties.
was an enforcer on that, so.
Got it, so that's why it's a, yeah, you're like.
That's why I know.
Yeah.
So if
but
I
it's
made,
pretty
you know,
strong.
the average commission is X, if I had to pay a couple $100, even $1,000, $2,000, it's part of doing business, right? So
Right.
I'm completely fine with that, completely fine with that.
If there's two other little tiny things that I could add, one is, sometimes I think we overcomplicate things too, to justify inaction.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when you start getting into all this like, oh, you know, that could happen, and I'm talking to myself right here, so I'm really talking to myself when I start getting into, wow, this could, just go, okay, let me bring it back to center, here's the simplification, and it allows me to go, cause otherwise we can get in our head all day long, right, we get the excuses of why not to do it. And the second piece I would say around the calling is it's important to know, if you pull up 200 numbers around an address, you could get something outside the neighborhood.
Oh,
So
you
you
will.
could call and they're gonna go, and we're gonna cover that, cause I don't wanna,
Yep.
do you wanna talk about that, like what
Yeah.
happens when you call outside the neighborhood?
So if you think about it, right, when you're making these calls, they're very generic calls, right? They're very generic calls. We actually had an agent, let's say 2 months ago, he called. We were calling a home in the West Valley, I believe it was in like Goodyear, and the number actually was registered to a gentleman in Scottsdale. And I was listening to the agent. He was 3 months on the team, so I was listening to him make the calls. And I'm hooked up to him so I can hear what they're saying. And the gentleman's like, I don't even live in Goodyear. You got the wrong number. And I was mouthing to him. I was like, just go with the script. Just read the script, right? And he said, well, you know, I apologize, but we do have a home that's listed. And he went on with the script. Long story short, the gentleman had a house to list in Scottsdale. Paul was able to connect with him, build rapport, just dug, profiled, identified, you know, what his motivation was, his reason on selling. Long story short, we ended up listing that house, and it was a call in Goodyear. So it really doesn't matter. You're just trying to connect with somebody on the other end, right? I just want an opportunity to have a conversation with you. That's all we're trying to do.
I stepped out for a second, I don't know if you said that, but the point is not necessarily to get them to buy that house or to come to the open house.
Absolutely not.
That is not the point. So sometimes we get lost in all that. The point is to have a reason to have a warm conversation with somebody about what their real estate plans are. That's the whole reason. So we can't get too, you know, tunnel vision on, oh, I'm just trying to get people, and again, also why we don't like to do just door knockers or hangers, because we wanna have conversation, not just leave the door knocker and hope they come to the open house.
Yep, it's a high touch business, right? Belly to belly. So if you look at the rest of it, the open house piece is, and Carin's gonna get into the details of what goes on in the open house, but again, you know, the objective when I was doing open houses and then formulating this and being able to train our agents is getting them to have clear intention on what they're gonna do with these calls and then at these events or these open house calls is, again, set the listing appointment, send over the lender pre-qual if they're a buyer seller, the preview appointment, the CMA, again, the market snapshot. We use Boomtown as our CRM, so we're gonna try to get them, you know, we're gonna get all of their information. I talk a lot about the 3 C's of real estate. I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but I tell my agents all the time, think about the 3 C's. One is capture all of their information, first name, last name, phone number, email. The second C is to connect and build rapport, and then the third C is to close, right? So you're constantly thinking about the 3 C's. So when you're capturing information, we want to put that in our CRM and set up some type of drip or follow-up for them, hence the boomtown in there. And then the last piece is confirmation they'll be attending the open house, and again, I can care less if you show up or not, I just want to have that conversation with you, and then you wrap it up with who do you know that I should know that's looking to buy or sell real estate. So lead line is our inbound lead line way that we are giving our agents opportunity for leads. So I'm not sure if you guys have like Zillow or any other third parties that you're paying for leads, but when our agents are taking calls in, their number one goal and objective is to set an appointment in person, right off the bat. And then if they can't do that, they're sending it over to the lender for a pre-qual. And then the third piece is, again, set them up for Boomtown, and then our text-to-lead tool, which Carin's going to also talk about. It's also known as Quickly. But that is the objective of all these different calls that we do on a daily basis. And not all of our agents are prospecting based, right? We have an 80-20 rule. So when you come to our team, you pick out what your 80% is going to be spent on around lead generation. So a lot of them are open house, some of them are lead prospecting, and then the 10-10 could be something else. But if you're doing open house, you're going to do some prospecting because you're going to want to make these open house just listed, just sold calls.
I mean, like 80% of your time.
80% of your time, right? 80% of your focus and your time is around that piece of the lead gen, and then you have the 10-10, just because we want a 3-legged stool, not just a 1-legged stool around your lead gen things. So before I hand it over, Carin mentioned about the avatar of your particular buyer or seller. So again, my brain, I try to simplify things, and when I started digging in and dealing with people and meeting with clients, I felt like there were so many different objections and so many different questions that I could be asking them, and it got overwhelming. So what I did was I went back and I was journaling, and I just wrote out how many different types of sellers and buyers are there, if you really think about that, right? And what I mean is you have your first-time home buyer, right? And then you have your move-up buyer, you have your downsizing buyer, and then you might have like a relocation due to work, and then like divorce. There's gonna be subcategories, right? But they're gonna fit underneath those main avatars. And so what we did with our agents is, once you identify the first-time home buyer, you're gonna identify what are their fears, what are their concerns, what are their main objections, and what education do they need, right? So once we identify that, we wrote that all out. So if I'm talking to somebody, I identify that you're a first-time home buyer, in my head, I just pull that Rolodex card out, and that's how I'm gonna approach you, because everyone is in their unique segment, avatar of a person that you're talking with. And so it just makes it a lot easier, especially with our agents. They feel less overwhelmed because they can actually just simplify that conversation to that particular person. So hopefully that was helpful, and it's gonna be up to you guys to really dig in and figure out what their fears, concerns, what are their main objections, right? And what type of value do you think you can provide them?
Perfect. I was thinking, and you probably don't even know this, but I had a conversation with one of our newer agents, Justice, and he was door knocking an expired, because everybody calls expireds, but you're different, right? If you actually show up the door, knock it. And he knocked on the door, and it was not the right door. And the guy was like, what? I haven't had my house listed. Like, I'm a renter. And he's brand new on our, he's 19 years old, he's brand new on our team. And so he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he turns around and walks away. And the guy's like, hey, wait, but my lease ends in 2 months. So, like, can you come on in and we can talk about what I need to do to buy a house? And so I was like, well, what is your learning there? Like, it doesn't matter. Don't walk away. We still pivot, right? It's still a conversation. The guy opened the door. Well, you're renting. We're talking about when your lease ends, right? He's 19. He's brand new. So I just thought it was a great example, though, of just pivot. Sometimes you get just one track mind with that. All right, awesome. So we're going to shift to open house specifically. And we have this giant process for our whole team that I was like, well, I'm not going to send them this because it wouldn't apply. Some of it is more systematic internally what we do. So what I wanted to do is just take out what would be applicable to you to have an open house that's going to yield you the best results. the highest number of leads, okay? And I think a lot of it actually starts with some preparation. So like Son mentioned, we're gonna spend a minimum of 2 hours circle prospecting. We're gonna definitely share that on social media, so we're gonna do possibly a video at the property. Is anyone posting when the house is gonna be open with a rider on your open houses?
Yes.
So it's a good one to drive traffic to a particular time, right? So you've seen them, you can get them at the associations that say open Sunday, you know, whatever the time you were gonna be, and so you would put that up a few days earlier, so it would help drive, you know, drive-by traffic. The other thing important to mention here before I forget is that open houses are a fantastic way to get listings. Okay, again, I think sometimes we get singular focus of like, I'm here to sell the house, or I'm here to get people that walk in the door are buyers, right? They're interested in buying the house. And a lot of time, I love when our newer agents go, Carin, it was a waste. I got a bunch of nosy neighbors. I'm like, nosy neighbors equals seller, right? So please, if you've ever said that, we're gonna throw that one away, and you're gonna shift your focus of like, a nosy neighbor is, no one's just looking. They're a potential seller, right? So it's an incredible way to pick up listing leads as well, and having that sign, that rider that says it's open from a certain, you know, day and time, can actually drive the sellers that drive by that house all the time to go, you know, I've been wanting to see inside their house and see what upgrades they made and see how their house compares to mine. And so that actually can help drive you some seller traffic to that. The other piece that we're gonna do, which I think is pretty unique and specific to our team, is that we're gonna identify other properties in the neighborhood. We're gonna identify 1 to 3 other properties. And so, if I can find a model match, I'm gonna look for those. And what I'm doing there is I'm setting it up so that, does anyone know the numbers of how many people actually walk into the open house and buy that house?
Very slim.
It depends on who you look at. I've seen it, you know, at 2%, I've seen it at 8%. The number's probably somewhere in the middle. The point is that there's far more people that walk in that aren't gonna buy it than that are, right? And so you have to look at that and say, well, if I could get into a relationship and I could add value to them right away, then I'm going to improve my conversion with them, right? My stickiness to them. And so you're gonna pick out a model match if you can find one, and a couple of other properties, so that if they come in and that one's not a match, you're gonna actually take them to go see that other property, okay? This works for in disclosure, it works for our team because all of our open houses are held with 2 people. Right, so number 1, it's a safety thing. Number 2, I don't know if you've done open houses before, but the people tend to come in at the same time. Yeah. It's kind of that effect, right? Like you see one car and then another car and then, oh, well, what do they stop for? We should stop and see what's going on in there, right? It's kind of like that joke where you can get in the line and you just get in the line for nothing, but people get in the line with you. They don't even know what they're in line for. Mm-hmm. It has that effect. And so I think that's what happens at open house. And so everyone shows up at the same time, and then you can't effectively work it if you don't have multiple people. For the individual agents in the room, I would say partner with a lender. There are a lot of different lenders that would be happy to do an open house with you, that you could, you know, tag it that way, would be an idea. Or have somebody else maybe that's new in the business and they can mentor with you, and they can also, you know, learn and sit there with you. If you get the opportunity to go show by another house, the house isn't sitting empty without representation while you pivot and go do that, okay? The other houses that you're gonna pull up, if you have to schedule through another agent, I know myself as a listing agent, I'd be thrilled to get a call like that. Yeah, you wanna bring potential buyers through my listing? Absolutely, I'm happy to have you bring those people. It depends, I know we can contact the sellers directly, it depends on how it's set up in MLS, right, through showing time and whatnot. And I'm gonna give, the actual script is there I'm pretty sure it's on the paper that you have, yeah?
So what's the point of having a model match, right? You're trying to...
Yeah, because it could have different upgrades. That's a great question. They could walk in this house and just go, you know, I don't really like the upgrades that are in this house or the backyard, and maybe the model match has a pool.
Okay.
You could, and you're also, thanks for saying that though, because you're also going to pull up something, let's say you have a split floor plan. Maybe you're going to find one where it's not a split floor plan. Maybe there's one, yours has the master downstairs, you're gonna find another one that has a master upstairs, right? So things that people, you're gonna anticipate a little bit what people are gonna come in and say that they don't like, so that you have options. Again, the point is not necessarily that you're gonna sell one of those other houses, it's more of, when you go into an open house, do you think that that's the experience that most of these home buyers are getting? No, it's pretty much like, here's a sign-in sheet, if I show you around, maybe that's what happens. And so it does allow you more time with them too, to ask more questions. You're being valuable, you stand out amongst other people, and so it gives you a much higher ability to convert the business at that time.
So I'm guessing, do you get not occupied ones so you can go see it?
If you can find not occupied ones, you can for sure do that. I don't mind having them occupied either. And that's why I gave, do you guys have this one here too? It says open house scripts. Is that one of the ones that you have? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not that.
Not that one.
It's the,
It's a different one.
It's just the one-sided.
Just one.
Just a one-sided. Okay, I'll have Kelly send you guys this one as well. There's so much goodness I was trying to bring that this is one that we'll make sure that we slip in there. It actually has the open house script when they walk in the door. Did you talk about that one?
I did.
Okay, so we'll pivot to that one in just a bit. On what it is here is setting up the tentative appointment with the nearby. So if you actually talk to the seller, right, and not the listing agent, it's hi. This is Carin with the Nguyen Real Estate Network at Keller Williams. I'm calling today because I'm holding an open house at your neighbor's home at 1235 Main Street on Sunday from 11 to 2. And as fabulous as their home is, it may not meet the needs for every buyer that walks in. So I'd like permission to bring them to your home if it turns out that your home may be a better fit. Again, it would be sometime between 11 and 2 on Sunday, and I can call or text you a few minutes before I arrive. Would that be okay?
And this
And
is
they say
the
yes.
agent?
This is to the seller. So when you have, because sometimes you're going to have direct communication with the seller when that's listed in the MLS. If it's not, then you just schedule with the agent. You can have the same exact script, but you're just giving it to the agent. Okay, so you can pivot there. They say yes to say, okay, great. Would it also be okay if I came to preview your home on Friday at 5 to be sure I'm familiar with all the upgrades and amenities? Because I also want to know a little bit about that home before I show up.
Right.
Because I want to be a neighborhood expert when they come in, because that's also another way I'm going to capture them, when I can speak intelligently about, and when you're talking to those other sellers and your home seller of the open house, and you can say, oh, you'll get this information when you're door knocking. One of the questions would be, you know, so how did you happen to pick this neighborhood? And you'll find out more information when you're doing that. They'll say, oh, the Jones is just sold, everyone's selling right now, or, you know, we have great school. You'll get some intellectual property there that you can use with the people that come through your open house. And what do you think happens if this house that I'm previewing ever expires?
You're gonna call them and get the listing.
They're gonna call me and I might get the listing, right? Nothing unethical about that. However, if I do an open house every weekend in that neighborhood and I'm constantly calling that, and by the way, it's very important to call them afterwards, after your open house is over, if you didn't bring anyone by, and actually acknowledge, hey, you know what, there wasn't anyone today, we didn't have a lot of traffic, or you know, we had good traffic, but there just wasn't anyone today that was a fit for your house. The next time I do an open house, you know, it'd be okay to call you back and, you know, potentially hold your home open as well. Okay, yeah, sure. So if you're doing that, you might be, maybe their agent's never holding their house open, and now you're the one, you know, bringing potentially, or at least having conversations about selling their house more than their agent is. Okay, nothing unethical about this whatsoever, because we're not trying to get the listing. Just getting the listing, if it didn't sell, could be the byproduct, right? So a strategy. I know for some people that doesn't feel right. I'm like, okay, well then don't take the listing when they call you. The point is still to build. The number one is that you're building rapport, you know, with the buyer.
That's a great idea. I mean, that's just a great idea.
Thanks.
Doesn't fit, this house doesn't fit, let me bring you over here.
Yeah, well, it just makes sense, right? You just
Right.
go, well, if there's 92% of the people it's not going to work for,
Right.
you know, let's give them something that works. Yeah.
Got it.
And I think if you're constantly asking that question, when I get in front of the person I'm going to get in front of today, number one, our goal every day should be, I need to get in front of somebody today to talk about buying or selling real estate. Face to face, belly to belly. I might have to be on the phone to do that, to set that up, but the goal is to get face to face to have a real estate conversation every single day, okay? And when I do that, then it's how am I going to provide them the highest level of value when I do it? What is it that, so I have to be curious, right? I have to be 5 years old to find out what's bothering them, what problem am I trying to solve, what's their need, and I'm gonna ask that question. So that was how I came up with that strategy, was, well, if a buyer's gonna come in and 92% of them aren't gonna buy this house, how can I still be really valuable to them? And so hence, that strategy was born. The next piece of it is to make sure that you actually preview the house. Now on ours, you're probably holding your own listings. However, I guess sometimes when you're just getting started out, that's a strategy. If you don't have a home to hold open yourself, you call the other listing agents in the area. The top agent on our team, she'll do like 350,000 in income this year. She sold about 100 houses last year. Sorry, she'll do more than that this year. She started off for me as calling me to hold my houses open. She's like, "Can I do your open houses?" And I was like, "Sure, absolutely." So that's how we get started a lot. So you may never have seen the house before, and I don't think it's a good idea to see it for the first time the day that you hold it open. So if you haven't seen it because it's not your listing and you're holding it open for someone else, do that prior. It also helps build rapport with the seller so that they feel good about you holding their home open and so that you're knowledgeable about that. We talked about the writer. The other piece that we do, so I talked a little bit about sending them or setting them up with our CRM, you know, whatever that is. Hopefully, does my home group provide everyone with an individual site? No? Okay, so you're responsible for your own individual sites. Do most of you have a site that you can drive traffic to that then it's going to drop somewhere else? Mm-hmm. Okay, so whatever the link is to that site, can you pull up, I'm assuming you can pull up homes in that site? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're going to find the address to this listing that you're holding open in your own site. Okay, you're going to go to that page and you're going to do a capture of it, right? So if you're, whatever you're on, Windows or Mac, you're just going to take a little screen capture of that. You guys know what I'm talking about there? Okay, and then you're going to actually have an email template that you have made that just says, "Hey, thanks so much, it was great meeting you today. Here's the information that you requested on the house." And you're just going to put that picture right in the email, and you're gonna also make a link where you like click on the picture to get more details, and you know that link directs them back to your website. Okay, and then it has your contact information at the bottom. We do that because we don't like to give out flyers. If I give out a flyer, then what do you need me for? So again, I'm gonna capture information. So I'm gonna say, "Hey, what's your information?" so that I can send you that. And maybe I've pulled out some other properties, maybe it's the ones I'm gonna show you in the area, or some other things. I'm trying to find value that I can bring to those buyers, and then I can set them up that way. So we're capturing, and then the information is probably gonna be accurate, right? Because they wanna get that information. As far as the marketing materials, we have one laminated flyer, because we're not giving it out, so it's just kind of, you know, to have posted in there. Because I think there is something to be said about presentation when you come in. So, you know, having a cork board, having a flyer. Are you guys familiar with list reports? List reports. So if you're not, list reports, I think it's just listreports.com. I know you guys have lenders in this office that offer that, and it's just a marketing tool, and it has some really nice neighborhood photos, and they're very colorful, and you don't have to do any work to get it other than go to the site, look up the address, and print it out, and it gives you great colorful content for your open houses. Okay, we do a property flyer, we do our door knocking, your invited cards, and then we also have feedback cards. So we have just little feedback cards so that when people come through the house, it always feels great for a seller to come back and actually have some tangible feedback that came from the other people and not just you, right? And I think they receive that information differently as well. It seems like it's more credible, it's more real. So we just have, you know, feedback cards, there's just a few questions on there, and so when the seller comes home for the occupied properties, they come home to a pile of feedback cards that they can go through. And they can see that, and it makes them happy, right? Let's make the seller happy. And just since we're right here so I can address it, how many of you guys have had sellers that have cameras in their houses?
Yes.
With
Yes.
audio too.
And sometimes, yes, with audio. So creepy.
Yes.
This is so creepy to me, right? And they're not telling us that they have that. And so sometimes you don't find out because something happens at the open house and they don't like the way that it happened, you know? We had one of our sellers say, you know, your people came in and the buyers came in and they weren't even trying to sell my house. And you know, and I kind of chuckled because I was just teaching our agents the day before. You can't be a slimy car salesman, right? Like, and look at this, side by side Kenmore refrigerator, fantastic, you know, and like, it's so cheesy. You're not going to do that. The house really is going to sell itself. You can talk about the features of the house. However, it really starts back to what I said earlier. You have to be curious and ask questions about what's important to them. And the power that I'm going to tell the seller is, listen, you know how many open houses we did this weekend? We're doing this with all of our clients and all of our open houses. So while that person might not have been a fit for your house, we're asking those same questions for the open house that we did a few blocks away or a neighborhood over. And so that could actually be the match for your house. So I know it seems unorthodox, but we're doing it also to give your property as much exposure as possible. That's what you hired us to do. And so we're driving people in the door. But it's the whole, you lead the horse to water, you can't make them drink. People either start moving their furniture in or they don't, right? We're not gonna sell that way. That's just not how it works. And then the other thing I think is to be prepared to have an appointment. So we've had some of our agents, you know, get there, they're like, Carin, I didn't have a buyer broker. I didn't have a buyer guide. And it's like, hey, the point of being in there is to make an appointment. On the other spectrum, we have agents that are spectacular at our open houses, and they're good. I mean, if 4 people walk in, they will get a signed buyer agreement out of 4, 1 out of 4 times. And so it's not the location, it's not, oh, those were different special people that came into that open house. The difference there is the agent, and it's his mentality that I'm going to pick up at least 1 buyer, if not 2, when I do these open houses by the other activities I'm doing, right? Door knocking, and maybe some sellers as well. So I think it's really important that you're prepared and you expect that you're going to be on an appointment and have any collateral that you would have in front of a buyer with you so that you're ready to get the business right there, right? That law of diminishing intent, you can have a great conversation with them here, but if they leave and they go to another open house and that buyer, that agent actually has it, they closed them and you lost them, right? And or you talk to them the law of diminishing intent, which means they're excited about it right now, but now, you know, life happened to them and now they can't meet for a couple of days and now it's a couple weeks out and they had every intention to use you, but that waned, right? It diminished. And so it's very important to do it while you're in the moment and high in the emotion. All right, so the second piece is the actual day of the open house. So the day of the, and you can iterate this any way that you like. Some of our agents actually door knock not the day of the open house. They may do it a few days before because they just find it to be too much when you're trying to do it the morning of. We pay, like I said, for somebody to put out the signs, but I get it. If you're putting out your own signs, it's kind of like, oh, do I want to put out the signs and then also door knock? It could be a lot. So that's up to you on how you strategize that to do the open house. And then again, if you haven't done the teaser video on social media, you would do it that morning, right? Where it's just you're in front of the house. Hey, it's Carin, I'm in front of this great house over on 123 Main Street, and we're gonna be holding that open from Sunday or today or whatever day it is, and you're putting that on social media. Some people are gonna come because they see your video. Some people it's just to say that you're active in real estate. Oh, that's right. Or you know what? I'm gonna list with them because you know they're doing open houses for their sellers all the time. So it's more of you may get people as a byproduct, but it's also putting it out to the earth of listen, if I gotta get face to face with somebody every single day, this is a constant reminder to the people on my social media about what I do and that I'm actively doing it. Like I'm actively out working with buyers and sellers. So we door knock a minimum of 20 houses, 4 or 5 contacts. You guys can set your own standards, right? For me, I would want to have a certain number of conversations, and it's not necessarily about how many doors I knocked. Because if I knock 20 and I don't talk to anybody, that's not a win for me, right? That's not a day worked. And then you want to do the common stuff. I'm not really going to get into like what you do when you walk through the house, but you want to make sure that the house is show ready. Turn on all the lights, if there's music, is the AC comfortable, get it ready and comfortable for people to come through. You set up your table, and then the next piece is the quickly, like San talked about, which is the text to lead registration. Don't worry, I'm gonna let you do the script for it. I just, you know, in my mind, I just have it right here.
I love it.
And this is like San said, we want to capture people's information instead of giving something out. Of any of the things that we use, I think this, I mean, better than Boomtown, this by far and away is my favorite tool that we have as a resource on our team. It's $99 a month, so it's not like a $1,500 Boomtown account. And when somebody comes in, we're gonna set them up so that they can actually get copied on listings that are not even mine. So if they go to any house after I set them up, they can be curbside and put in that address, and it will send them, I think it's 5 photos, and the description, a little mini description of the house, the bedroom, bathroom count, and the price. So instead of them having to go to Zillow, instead of them having to make a sign call, they can actually use our app, and I actually have a GPS on that. So every time they inquire at a different house, it's not my listing because it's through IDX search, I'll get a notification that says, hey, Jerry Springer is at this house. I wouldn't work with Jerry. He's at this house on Main Street, and so now I can, you know, accidentally call him right then and just say, hey, how's your home search going? Well, actually, I'm in front of this other house. Well, imagine that, you know.
What's the name of the app?
It's Quickly, KWKLY, and we do quite a bit of speaking and training and teaching, and so I actually set up with them. I don't have any ownership, but I thought if you want people to use it, you gotta give them a discount. So if you guys text them, it's actually my name, Carin, and the number 50, and you text that to 59559. 559?
Can you?
Too many fives and too many nines.
Right?
Yes.
Good idea. Let's write. The left-hander with the dry erase board is not a good mix.
I know, right?
Cause it erases, you know, when I write. So you're gonna text 59559. And of course I picked a marker that's gonna be. And it doesn't matter if it's all caps, lowercase,
Okay.
it's just it's all together, no spaces. If you send that, they'll give you half off the startup fee and they'll give you the first month free. Okay, so if you guys decide to use that, you wanna use it. So that being said, Saj, you wanna say what the script is when somebody actually comes in and
Yeah,
sets up
so
that?
when somebody walks into the open house, right, you're gonna really dig into motivation and figure out how they're searching for a home now. So at the beginning of the script, I believe you guys have the script, but it's hi, my name is San. Usually when people walk into one of my open houses, they're one of two people. One is they're actually looking to purchase their next home.
That's the script we're gonna get you.
And
That's the one that
two is they have their own home and they want to know the value of their current home. Which one are you? Right? Again, we're forcing that conversation. And so once you dig into that, I'm big in
So I
uncovering.
think you should say that one again, because if people walk in and you're just like, hi, welcome to our open house. But this is a very pointed question, so I'm gonna let him say it again. Again, we're gonna send it out to you, but because you don't have it, I think it's important for him to say that one more time.
Hi, my name is San. Welcome to the open house. Usually when people come to our open houses, they're one of two people. The first people are looking to purchase their next home, and the second is that they're looking to find the value of their current home that they're living in. Which one are you? Right? So once you cover that, you can really dig into motivation. So I'm big on motivation. So finding out and going deep with why they're looking to move, why they're looking to sell. For me, if you can get that, that's the foundation of your conversation. So when you go to close for the appointment, it's very easy to do because you're just gonna use that motivation for the close, right? And so through the conversation, I'm gonna dig in, I'm gonna say, how are you currently looking for a home now? What are you gonna hear? What else?
Driving.
Driving around, right? Obviously they're driving around. How did you find this house? So
Or I
I'd
know
say-
an agent.
We get an agent
Or you might know an agent, sure, and I would say, oh, I'm curious, why isn't that agent with you today? Right? So I would dig into that and I would say, you know what, I have a fantastic tool that I would love to set you up with just because I know that you've used Zillow and Realtor.com in the past. And I'll tell you, that's a good place to start. You've probably noticed that it's not the most accurate information, right? Have you had a situation where you called on a property or inquired about a property and it's not even available anymore? Super frustrating. So, and then also you're probably calling on signs, right? You're driving around open houses and you're calling signs. I hate to say this, but probably 9 out of 10 times no one's answering and nobody ever calls you back. Am I correct on that? Yeah, again, I apologize on behalf of all the real estate agents out there. But I'm gonna set you up with this phenomenal tool. You're not gonna need to depend on anybody else. You're actually going to text this number, right? 59559. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna text that number initially to get you set up, and then once you're at a property, you're gonna text in the address. You'll start with 1, 2, 3, 4 West Main, and then a list of homes will come up and you're gonna click on the home you're looking at, and it's gonna text you back 5 pictures of the home, the description, and the price of the home. Now, wouldn't that be great to have in the palm of your hands instead of wasting time driving around and making calls and getting accurate information? So I can absolutely set you up with that. What's your phone number? And I can get that set up for you right now.
Here we go.
Right? So it's
You have your
really
cell phone
hard.
out, right? So
Yeah,
and you're looking at their
Literally,
phone, like, did you
yeah.
get the text?
Right. So
Did it come through? So that's the right number.
that's it.
Yeah, that's a real number.
So what I find is it's really hard to lie to somebody when they're right in your face.
That's true.
So hence no business cards, hence no flyers. We're using the tools.
No sign-in sheet.
No sign-in
No
sheet.
sign-in sheet.
Because we get a lot of John Smith.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, right? But you're not gonna lie to me just because I'm gonna give you value, and and I'm gonna make sure that you got it. Hey, maybe I was one digit off. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? You should have gotten it already. Right, so we use a lot of that, yes.
How do you deal with objection when they don't wanna give you their phone number?
Have we ever had that?
It's rare, but then I go back to motivation, right? So you talked about, you know, you need to move into a property because your lease is up in about 50 or 60 days. You're driving around town, popping in open houses, you haven't found anything you liked, you haven't made any offers, your clock is ticking. Am I getting all that right? That's the conversation we had earlier, right? So this is exactly why you either need to meet with me, or I'm gonna give you a tool in order to help that process along and get you into a home in the next 40 to 50
You're
days.
good, you're
right?
good.
I think if you just go back, right, if you just go back to motivation, you can
Yeah.
easily close. But the tool is such of great value, it's rare that anybody says, no, I don't want that. And I would say you don't wanna have a tool that is gonna be a lot easier, more accurate for you to find homes and listings and find out more information. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty rare.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm probably just gonna go, oh, can I ask why? I mean, I missed something, right? Sounds really
And
good, okay, I'm just less patient.
Yeah, I always
That's
love
why.
putting it back on myself to say, gosh, I apologize, maybe I did a poor job explaining the value of the tool that I wanted to set you up with. What part did you not understand, or maybe I did a poor job in, so I can re-explain and show you the value of what I'm offering. Right, so I just take it back to myself, it breaks down that defense mechanism.
And how about you start calling them, they give you the right number, you start calling them, and no one picks up the phone, they don't just come to his phone, disregard your phone calls. Messages not given.
So that happens a lot, right? So
Yes.
I took our database with all of our agents, and I did a case study. I wanted to know how many voice-to-voice conversation would you need to have with somebody before we moved them into a set appointment, a buyer broker agreement, or an ER, right, or under contract. So how many do you guys think that is? What was the number that I came up with?
50.
And so,
Seven.
do you start sending them emails?
Well,
Do
let
you
me get into that.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be. So 10,
You talking about
4,
How many
voice to voice,
contracts?
voice to voice conversation.
12 at least?
Ours is 12, right? The industry, on the macro, level is about 15 to 16. We're at 12 to 13, right? So anytime I put somebody in our database, in our CRM, I'm going to call them, text them, email them, and then also we do like video, video bomb. So I'm gonna hit them pretty frequently for 10 days straight. And then after the 10 days, and when you talk 10 days, I'm hitting them 3 or 4 times every single day with either an email, a call, a text, or a bomb video. And after 10 days, they go on our drip campaign.
But, for example, they told you, we need 3 garage, no pool, so and so and so. Do you send them this particular zip code or this particular neighborhood? Do you set up a search for them?
In our CRM, we do. Yeah, so I'm uncovering what they're looking for. But so to answer your question, when I have somebody that ghosts me, there's a couple different reasons, right? One is that life happens, and then when I eventually get a hold of them, I'm like, oh, I get it. The other day I was talking to a gal, great rapport. The lender was supposed to call her to get a pre-qual, and she didn't pick up. Called her Monday, and she's like, I was in the ER. I'm pregnant, I was dehydrated, they wanted to be safe, right? So I was in the ER all weekend, I'm sorry. Life happens, I get that. And the other times when people don't show up, or they don't answer the phone, it's because we did a really poor job of really connecting and adding value, and really digging into their motivation of why they're looking to buy or sell. So we have to go inward, so anytime that happens to myself or an agent, we sit down and we reverse engineer the whole conversation, and 9 out of 10 times we can identify why they're not calling back, right? Because we didn't provide value, we didn't uncover motivation, and we didn't dig deep enough, and we didn't get to the emotion and the motivation.
I think also when you feel slimy about like, oh my gosh, you're gonna do all of that, I'm calling, I'm texting, I'm emailing, like, I'm harassing them, I'm bugging them, I'm selling them, it goes back to, well, if you're not clear on what their goal was and what their motivation was, then you would feel that way. But if you say, oh gosh, they have to do this by this time, it's really important for me to get back in front of them. So I just say that because it's a good gut check. If you're ever going, oh, I don't want to do all of that, it just kind of goes back to us and going, where did they miss the opportunity to really get clear on what it is that they needed to accomplish.
So a script that we use when we do get a hold of somebody, right? Most of the time they're like, oh my gosh, I so appreciate you being so persistent, right? Or man, you guys are really persistent. And what we usually say is we're absolutely persistent, and this is the type
And
of
we're
agent,
passionate.
and we're passionate. This is the type of agent you're going to hire because we're going to be persistent and passionate about getting you into your home or selling your home, right? That's who you hire.
When you convert to the drip, is it basically the same scenario, only less often and a little more varied?
Yeah. So there's a couple different drips that go out, 12 months, 8 months, 6 months, and it's a combination of calls, texts, and then emails. So agents are still involved in the drip.
Kind of monthly or weekly, or what's your period?
Just depending on what drip we put them into.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say you try to make those as short as possible instead of these long, like wordy, we're trying to sell our value in this like long email. Making them shorter has proven to be a lot more effective. And then one that we just added to our 10, like at the end of 10 or 15 days, whatever that looks like, is I love emailing you, but you hate responding. And then at the end of that, you know, then you ask the question, you know, did you want to go out and look at houses this weekend? Did you still need to sell? You could do the same thing in text, right? Like I love texting and you hate responding.
Likewise, during the 10 days, short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, so my texts are you available?
They're like, who's this? Exactly, you're available.
Yeah, I mean,
all right, that's fine. All right.
Or is
Gotcha.
this John? And they're like, who's this? So I just need some engagement.
It's so and so. You had a question?
Yeah, regarding the buyer broker
Yeah.
and the open houses, what kind of script do you use for that?
To get them to sign the buyer broker?
Yeah.
Well, we call ours a loyalty agreement, and really we're not just trying to put that in front of them. We're going to do a buyer consult first, which, you know, if they have me come back, we'll teach a whole class on, you know, what our buyer consult looks like, because we don't really we've earned the right, we don't feel like we've earned the right to ask for that until we've sat down and said, well, number one, we got to identify, well, what are your needs, and do I think we can help you? And I think that's really a big differentiator for us, because otherwise we're going, I can help you. But you don't know that. So it already feels salesy when you start saying that. Well, I don't know, what is it that you're looking for? Let me make sure, you know, we're best matched for you and what you're trying to accomplish. In order to determine that, I need to know a little bit more. And I start asking questions. And I think already right there, you know, the guard goes down a little bit because I'm doing a takeaway. Like I don't have to, there's people we've said no to. Like, you know what, it just sounds like, you know, have you ever pulled up, one of the things that we do that I will share that's powerful is we try to do the buyer consult when we can in the office, or at least in front of the computer. So after we do that, we can pull up the MLS and we do a quick search. And I think it's extremely powerful to have it up to show how many houses show up. So right now, you know, we have about 21,000 houses in the market. They see that number and you go, okay, great. You want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and then that number dwindles down, right? If you do that quick search, the number changes in front of you, big on the screen. Okay, and you want to go into this neighborhood. All right, that changes. Okay, and then you want to be at this price point. Uh-oh, we only got 2 houses. So we went from huge to like, we don't have this, or you don't want an HOA. Okay, well your price point doesn't match not having an HOA, so right there, you know, what can we adjust? You know, and if they say, well, no, we're not going to adjust anything, you know, it sounds like I'm not the agent for you, I can't help you because there's just not the inventory. But wait. All right, well, I guess if we had to adjust, if we don't do that, then we get into a relationship with somebody and we're like, I'll just find it. I'll look for it. And those are the kind of people that we take away from other agents because they go, my agent just wasn't listening to me. And it's because the agent just wasn't honest with them. It wasn't that they were trying to be dishonest, they just weren't honest about what to find them. So all that being said, I don't think we've earned the right to ask for that until you've taken them through the process and told them all about
I thought it was a little presumptuous, that's why I asked the
question.
question.
No, but I'm just saying be prepared to have that, like do a buyer consult and be able to do that there. You know, why not? And we don't always do that. It's a business call. Sometimes you just got to show a few houses, and then you're doing that in a vacant house at the kitchen, you know, island. Like, hey, we're going to do a modified consult.
Do you ever use the proper buyer broker?
Oh, we do, we use the buyer broker.
You just call it the other thing.
We just call it a loyalty agreement.
Okay.
Yep. They say, I'm going to work for you. I work for free. Isn't that amazing? I work for 100% for free, and I don't earn anything until I actually find exactly what you're looking for. And in exchange for that, you're going to agree that you're not going to go into other open houses without me, you're not going to go into a new build without me, and you're not going to work with any other agent. Okay? And that really is what that says.
Okay.
Okay, and we don't always do that. It's a business call. Sometimes you just got to show a few houses, and then you're doing that in a vacant house at the kitchen, you know, island. Like, hey, we're going to do a modified consult. Do you ever use the proper buyer broker? We just call it a loyalty agreement. Okay. Yep. They say, I'm going to work for you. I work for free. Isn't that amazing? I work for 100% for free, and I don't earn anything until I actually find exactly what you're looking for. And in exchange for that, you're going to agree that you're not going to go into other open houses without me, and you're not going to work with any other agent.
but this is what you do at your consultation.
That's the
Yes,
consultation, yeah.
But what do you do at the open house only? You switch them over to the weekly, and you pick up their contact, their information.
If I can, I show them the other houses, like we talked about, right? Is there an opportunity to show them the other houses in the neighborhood? And if I can, I'm gonna set an appointment. Like, hey, this is why, okay, I get it, you have your kids with you and they're hungry and you gotta go. I understand, I have 4 kids myself, so when's the best time for us to get back together? The other thing is, I'm gonna give them options. I always know my schedule, so I'm not gonna say, hey, when did you wanna get back together? I'm gonna say, what works best for you? We could do, Monday in the evening, or we could do Saturday morning, which one works best? And I do that because I need to control my lead generation time, and otherwise my schedule is all wonky and out of whack.
Something Carin did touch on is like doing your homework prior to the open house, and something that we do, and I think we do it well, is while researching the neighborhood, like she said, you're finding 2 or 3 other homes that could be a fit, right, or something similar. So the script is, hey Carin, I know this house isn't the right one for you, but based on what you told me what your needs are for you and your family, I actually personally gave you 3 additional homes in the area that would probably work for you guys. The open house ends today at 3. My partner here is probably gonna wrap up, so I'll probably be able to get out of here by 3:20. I can meet you at that first property, maybe at 3:45 if I push it, or even 4 o'clock, whatever works for you. But again, I think that and then the 2 other homes would absolutely work for you guys. So would 4 o'clock work?
Yeah, I can do that.
Great. And then so I have that prepared, right? I already know that there's 2 or 3 other homes that would work for them. And then I'm also doing that, what she talked about is clipping out those 3 homes, and I have it, I convert it into an email, or I like converting it into a text. It's a link in my text, and then I go,
I'd rather have your phone
what's
number
your
than
phone
your.
number, right? And then I send it.
I already have it, cause I set you up on quickly. Yes, absolutely.
Do you use other home styles? For instance, you've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, they're looking for a 2 or a 12-bedroom home. So you look at other types of homes, or
No,
are
I
you
keep it
just going the
similar.
same size?
I keep it similar, because most likely, I mean, they're not gonna, if they're looking for a 12-bedroom, they're not gonna come into a house that's like this big, that's 3-bedroom, so I might have a 4-bedroom versus a 3-bedroom, but I'm not gonna have anything that's like vastly different.
Well, that was just
Yeah, I get it. There's a couple of things that we touched on that I just wanna make sure they're kinda like some nuggets for you. Number 1 is, I think we have to remember our value has changed. When I got into the business 15 years ago, it was about finding the house. Before that, God forbid, they had a book, an MLS book, and you control the inventory through this Bible of listings, right? This book. And, then, my day, dating myself, there was the MLS, but there was like not front photos. All right. And then we got better, and then we got a front photo. And then, we got to where we are today, and there's like 30 to 50 photos, and they don't even need us to send them and set them up on a search. They just go to Zillow. They don't need us. And so I think that's why it's even more important to recognize the value in discovering the motivation from that with them than to try to set them up on a search. Because our inclination is, all right, well, how many bedrooms and bathrooms? Like, what's the geographic area? What's the price point? And this is our default, because nobody teaches us when we get into business not to do it. And it seems logical, like, well, to find you the product, I have to enter that in, so I need to know what that is. And I really look at that like if you go to your doctor's office and the doctor just comes in, looks at the sheet that you put in and is like, all right, so we're gonna have surgery Wednesday at 5. You see that commercial with the doctor, and it's like, are you nervous? Yeah, so am I. That's the kind of doctor that you end up working with. And it feels very like not good. It's not a good experience. And so it's more of consultative, right? Like we're gonna get the information, so you think about it just like a doctor, all the questions that they're gonna ask. And even if they tell you, right, we fill out the sheet, we go to the doctor that says all these things, but we're still gonna ask questions. It seems repetitive, however, we're just gonna dig a little bit deeper. And so some of those questions would be, these are like money questions that you should definitely write down because they're not on the things that you have. But it would be, if you had this, you ask them the question, right, what would that do for you? So if they say, I'm relocating and I need to get my house sold. Okay, great. Well, what would selling your house in the next 30 days do for you? Well, gosh, it means that my wife wouldn't have to stay behind. It means I wouldn't have to make another mortgage payment. Well, God, yeah, how would that feel? Well, that would be incredible. Well, how would it feel if you didn't do that? Well, that would feel awful. I'd be really nervous. I'd be stressed. And so you're using those to try to like pull that out to get emotion. They're trying to draw the emotion out of them. So what would that do for you? How would that make you feel? And the other money one is just tell me more. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to do all of this talking, or gosh, what's the right question I need to ask? What's that question that Son said we need to ask? Just say, tell me more. People will talk if we let them talk. We don't need to be quick to jump to the next thing. So when they start giving you information, like, oh, tell me more about that. Well, we've been looking for 12 months. Gosh, and you haven't found a home yet. Tell me more. Why do you think that is? You know, and just explore that conversation with them. The other two things that were brought up are this one right here. Okay, I wrote this. You guys are kind of like, what the hell is she writing this on the board for? What does this have to do with anything? So I need a voluntold. Actually, can you read this for me?
I can't read.
You can't read?
A woman without her man is nothing.
What does that mean?
That's fact, isn't it?
Yeah. So what does that mean?
It means that behind every strong woman is a stronger man. No, I'm just kidding.
So I set you up. I always have a man read that. So I'm going to actually read it to you the way that I read it. And it's a woman. Without her, man is nothing. I put this up here, guys, because it's very powerful, our tonality.
Yes.
You know, the words that we convey are only 7% of communication. Okay? 55% is your tonality and 38 is body language. Did I mix that up? I always mix up tonality and body language.
Tonality over body language.
Right, 55% is tonality and 38 is body language. So I was reminded of this because I said I'm gonna ask why. When I ask why, you can go high with it, like, oh, well, why is that? Or I can go, well, why would you do that? Which 5-year-old? Which one sounds better? So you have to know, you know, there's a lot of classes and training that you can go. It's called upswinging and downswinging, and it's just powerful to remind us how important our tonality is. And sometimes you can read a script and go, oh my gosh, I'm not going to say that. And it's not the words that are on the script, it's how you deliver it through your tonality. And so I think it's really important when you're trying to be curious and maybe have a strong question there that's like strong language, you're going to go up with it. But we also need to be careful because a lot of times in real estate, because we don't get that type of training, we'll go up when we're supposed to go down. Because down is like certainty. So you go, you know, that's exactly why you should work with me. And if you do physically like make your body go down, that's like assertive, it's confident, you need to work with me. Versus like, you need to work with me? I don't know. So I thought this was an important one to teach powerful to drive home. And then the other one, somebody asked about working with an agent. What happens when they come into the open house and they're working with an agent? And I called these our expired buyers. We are fantastic at converting people that are working with an agent. Okay, and let me tell you what I mean by that, because some people are like, what? That feels very icky, or how could you do that? It's unethical. And if they don't have a buyer-broker agreement, shame on that agent. That is the equivalent to us being able to go to a listed property and knock on the door and go, have you seen your pictures in the MLS? They are horrific. I think that we should sit down and meet and talk about that. We can't do that. Why can't we do that? Because there's an ER, right? There's an exclusive, there's an agreement. So if you ask, you know, are you formally committed with an agent?
Even though sometimes that's what's needed.
What? Yeah.
To knock on someone's
It
door and
is
say,
needed, yes.
have you seen
However, we just
what's
can't do
going
that,
on
right?
here?
So I can't.
Do you know what you've done?
You don't know what you've done, yeah. I can't cross that line. However, if they don't have a signed agreement, it's a conversation, right? Like that agent has not found them the right house. They're at the open house without the agent, so I'm going to question that piece right there. I already think there's something about that relationship that's not working, because the fact that they would be in my open house without their agent tells me that they probably need help. And so if they tell me, oh, you know, I'm working with them, you know what, that's okay. I can still set you up with, has your agent set you up with that? That's okay. They probably don't have that technology. You can still use mine for free. I don't mind. I'm still going to set them up, and I'm still going to get the GPS notifications, and I'm still going to call them. Hey, how's your home search going? And I go, oh, we made 3 offers, and we still haven't had an offer accepted yet. Oh gosh, that's frustrating. I'm going to tell you, and sometimes the agents just go dark, because the agent's like, I can't find them the right house. And I might be calling them week after week, and I'm calling them now more than their agent is, and eventually I convert them. So again, it's all about mindset, right? How do we look at
And
these opportunities that we have?
The whole strategy around dealing with that is just creating doubt. But I never, ever, we train our agents to never insult or be disrespectful or unprofessional about the other agent. It's never about that. It's, hey Carin, so how long has it been since you've been looking for a home?
We've been looking for like 3 months.
Wow, 3 months. Gosh, I'm kind of concerned.
Why?
Right, so it's tonality, right? It's just curiosity. It's gonna be, gosh, 3 months, because based on kind of what you're looking for, I know that we have clients, I just actually put a client under contract last week, basically looking for similar things you're looking for in about 7 days. So I'm just really curious why it's taking you 3 months and you're still homeless. You're just creating doubt.
But now you have to live up to that expectation now, don't you?
What's that?
Don't you have to live up to that expectation? If you're saying you put a client in 7 days, you have to kind of, if they do go to you.
Yeah, and if I sit down,
Yeah, and if I'm honest with them.
Yeah, if I sit down, I do my buyer consultation and I uncover truly their motivation and what they're really looking for. I'm gonna be realistic and I'm gonna give them honest feedback on if what they're looking for is realistic or not, right? But the point is getting in front of them and creating that rapport and creating doubt with their current situation.
Yeah. So did you have a question over here?
Yeah, but how would you handle that with an agent that has his property for sale with another agent? Has 2 of those sellers came to my open house and they start asking me questions about selling a home, and it's like, I thought I couldn't talk to them.
Oh, the house is already listed?
Yeah, their house.
If they open the door, I mean, you can have partially the conversation, because they solicited you.
Yeah, they even asked me to go to your house and give my opinion, and like, I don't have a file for your house, I don't know if I should call and, say,
Yeah,
this to the.
that one I'd say probably go back to your broker, just to see how they feel about it, if they think that it's okay for you to go into the house at that point, because they solicited you and your opinion, or if they prefer that they broke that agreement first, because the broker is gonna be the one that has to have the deal with it, if,
And the
if it ends
other
up
one
being an
is,
issue.
that's a listing across the street from the one I was in the open house, he came at the end of my open house and he gave me his card to contact him, was like, and I feel uncomfortable because the other agent is with my home group, with my own.
Yep.
It's like,
That's an easier broker issue.
They own both of them.
but I had the opportunity to hold an open house on his property too, and it's like, I'm not gonna talk to you about your house, I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think it's a conversation with your broker, just to see how they would advise you. I have my broker's license, but I'm not your broker, so.
I didn't have a
Right,
license.
yeah. So it's more of, what is your broker gonna endorse or not? Just to kind of wrap things up, the few things that we didn't say is, we do a BombBomb video, Son mentioned that we do at other points. BombBomb is a video tool, it's just a great way to have rapport. So if you had all this great conversation, you offered to show them the other houses, they didn't want to do that. Following up after the fact by just doing a quick video like, hey John and Teresa, it's Carin, I'm closing up our open house today. I just really appreciated the conversation. If there's something personal that you could mention, I'd love to be the agent that helps you, and my contact information is listed below. Please give me a call, if I could be of help. Quick, and you send it. It's a differentiator, and it's personal. So it's one good thing to do in all of your follow-up. However you get the lead, I think it's important in the open house piece.
That BombBomb, you can do that for anything, right? We use that for open house. Anytime I make a call and I strike out and I don't get a hold of them, I send them a quick BombBomb video. If I talk to them and I have a good conversation, I follow with BombBomb video. So it's just a great way to really build rapport and put a face to a name, right? So they know that you're a real human being, you're not in some call center somewhere.
The other piece is when it comes to open house, you can have an event or a cause that's in conjunction with your open house. So, we're kind of getting through the winter months, so we're probably not going to do that. But what I mean by that is, maybe you're going to collect winter coats, okay? Because you're going to donate those to a particular charity or PAPIS, homeless school for the children, whatever that's going to be. You can say that when you're making your door knocks, when you're doing your circle prospecting calls, and that's a great reason to have people come and drop off the coats. Hey, we're collecting them. We have these open houses. We have multiple open houses, but for you, it could just be, here's the open house I'm going to be at. And then when you're door knocking in the community, that leaves an impression, right? So when I go back to great-hearted people, someone that's also great-hearted is gonna go, I like that they do that. They're trying to do something that benefits the community, and you are, and so there's gonna be an affinity right there, and it also makes for a warmer door knock. You can do the same thing with your sphere. So you can do it, donating water, you can do canned foods, right? You're kind of collecting canned foods, a coat drive, you can organize a community garage sale. So just think about doing events in conjunction with that, so it also warms up the conversations, and it's not just closed to the open house people. Make that call to your sphere as well. It's an excuse to contact your sphere, let them know what you're doing, and that they can drop off. If it's your sphere, you might offer to, like, I can come pick it up, right? Just a reason to get, hey, if you need to get face-to-face every day with somebody, if you got face-to-face with somebody in your sphere, that would also count, right? So if you're going to have to do this every day, that could be a quick and easy one, right? And so I wrote down also for your sphere, inside KW, we do something that's called, the old book is 33 Touch, I guess the new one is 36 Touch. Gary Keller wrote the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's not just a Keller Williams book. There are like Russell Shaw's in that book, Bill Ryan, who else? Mendoza, Mike Mendoza. Yeah, there's a lot of different. Used to be at KW. Did you used to be at KW?
No.
No. Okay. No. Okay.
No,
So
they're a great organization.
but it's a good, they just retired them in the training realm actually because they got it, I think it was like 10 years in a row, so they're like, all right, you guys are done, we gotta let somebody else be number one in training across all industries. The point that I'm making with that book though, it is a good foundational book, and it's a real estate book, it's not a Keller Williams book, and they lay out a plan in there that's called the 33 Touch, 36 Touch, we've just upped it and said, hey, you gotta make some extra touches. So I just wanted to give you what the recipe is of those touches, okay? So it would be to do 4 calls. Sherry used to be there. I've been past with you.
Yes.
So that's familiar, yeah, that's familiar for you. 4 calls, so you make at least 1 call per quarter, okay? 26 emails, and that's why we like the market snapshot, because that can count as one of the emails, and then the newsletter can be the other, okay? So that gives you
Do you send that to your whole database or just prospects in the database?
We send it to the whole database.
So everybody gets a market snapshot?
Yeah, anybody that we have address for. Yeah, absolutely. And then you do 2 events and 4 snail mail. Old-fashioned postcard, right? Okay. So for the events, they don't have to be anything expensive. You know, we do we're doing our spring training event where we, rent out a section and do that. We do a pie giveaway. We do family photos, so people that are like really great clients refer us a lot of business. We actually pay a photographer the day, and they take pictures of people's families back to back to back in the fall time. And then we do a movie event. Like I'm missing one. And then we do a movie event in the summer because it's hot as heck in Phoenix. So what else could you do except maybe go to a water park, I guess. I don't want to see some of my clients in a bathing suit though, so we're not going to do that. And they might don't want to see me at that point. You could, as far as events are concerned though, I have a coaching company, and some of my coaching clients actually do events just in a community park. So if you find that you work a farm, you have a particular area that you do a lot of business in, you can actually just get the community park, pretty inexpensive. You can get a lender that can probably partner with you. You can get a food truck that doesn't cost very much money, and you just solicit out. It's a great reason to make calls, door knocks, send a mail campaign. And if you don't have that farm or you're looking at a farm, I would say check the turnover rate in an area before you do that. And that just means look at the MLS, how many houses are in that neighborhood and how many sell. And if it's not more than 8%, I wouldn't waste my time. Find another neighborhood, there's a lot of them out there. Because that's about the number. It just means that you're gonna put a lot of dollars out in marketing, but that people in that neighborhood stay longer, okay? And then a lot of the other scripts and things that we gave you also apply to your sphere, right? So same conversation. I think the other 2 nuggets as we finished were asking people what are your real estate related plans for the year is a great question that you can ask. It can be for your sphere, it can be, as you run into people in the grocery store. When people ask you like, how's the market? What do we say? That's like the #1 question that we get, isn't it?
Fantastic.
Right?
That
It depends.
It depends on what
So
market.
it depends, right? Are you a buyer or seller, and what are your real estate related plans this year? So that's a good one to roll into, so it's a way to kind of, pivot back to them. And then there was one other question that I had.
I had down, would you buy or sell?
Yeah, that one.
In 2019 if you could. Right, so it could be for a prospect or a sphere.
Yeah, because a lot of times people will start giving us objections, and you're like, okay, well, let's just put that over here. If you could buy or sell today, which you could. If you could buy or sell in 2019, would you? Right? That's it. Alright guys, that's all we have. Before we like wrap up and call it a day, I'm like right on time, which has never happened in my life.
Ever.
How many hours of your life have you spent waiting for me? And we'll keep going. So if I can, it fills my emotional bucket when we come and teach, just to make sure like some of this stuff was useful and good information for you. So if you guys can just give me like a couple, give us, because it fills your bucket too. You're seeing Son's no name, because he's also a professional coach in the Keller Williams world, is the difference maker, right? Like it's all about making a big impact. And I forgot to mention that part of it. So if you could just kind of share with us a couple of things, like what are your top takeaways, and even better, maybe what are you going to actually execute? I love talking about takeaways, but let's take action on what we learned today. What are some of the things that you're going to walk away with and go, I'm going to actually do this? Or ahas. Not everybody has one.
The open house prep.
The open house prep?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We're brand new agents.
Okay.
So,
How to set that up, all that preparation for it. Excellent.
Text to lead.
The text to lead.
Those.
That's awesome sauce. Cheap for the results that you can get from that.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
I think not being so afraid to have the rejection, because for me, I'm always like, I don't want to be that salesman. I don't want to be like that saleswoman that's annoying, that's like, oh my gosh,
So
like,
shifting
go
your
away.
mindset.
Yeah, just shifting my mindset.
Yeah. You're helping people.
Yeah.
You can give them the lifeline, but if they don't take it, I mean,
Right.
that's on them if they drown, right? You can't-
Exactly.
You're not gonna forcibly put the ring around them.
Yeah.
Love that.
Higher road attitude.
The higher road attitude?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that? Tell me more.
Well, oh gee, I can't call them 10 days in a row and text them and email them and all that stuff. That's just too much. It's in their face, and I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
It's a positive
Yeah,
spin
it's a
instead of a
positive.
negative.
Yeah. Yeah. Flipping how we look at that. I love that.
Does anybody have an Amazon account?
Yeah.
How many emails you get from them?
Yeah.
I'm not offended.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
But you can't spam them because you're probably, because I have a whole bunch of things that I need to know what app I'm sending you, so I can't put it in spam. I would if I.
We're only spamming people if we're not providing value. Which is why I also don't love like recipe cards or just like sending an email to send an email, right? With just like some packaged content. There has to be some type of how am I gonna provide value, and as long as I go in that with every conversation, I'm gonna make more money than I know what to do with. I'm gonna have a very successful real estate business. Yeah. Cool. Any other last thoughts? Yes.
This is a thought, but it also required, hopefully I'll get a elaboration from you. I really like your idea of good fit, bad fit. And so I'm curious of what, as a generic rule, what is a good fit for your team and what is not a good fit?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question, because when we first got started, we were like, all right, we're very, driven. We want somebody that's gonna go out there and do whatever it takes. They probably have a chip on their shoulder. There's been some type of life event that they're like, all right, because of that, I gotta go do this. And we missed the mark because we did that, and then we had some people that weren't so great-hearted. And then we looked up and we were like, you know what? Because of circumstances in my life, I'm not one to go, I can't believe they did that to me and they came and stole money. It's more of the attitude of, well, I allowed that to happen. I was the one that hired them, and really apologizing, going, gosh, I'm sorry for whatever I did that made you feel like it was okay to do that to me. For some reason, I allowed you to do that. So it was then making a pivot to saying generosity and being great-hearted was really important. And we actually have an acronym in our team, and it's legacy, because it ties into the vision, right? To create the most incredible legacies possible. That applies for our agents on our team, and it also applies for, that's our mission with our agents, to help them create the most incredible legacies possible, and for them, with our clients, to help them create the most incredible legacies possible. So we use legacy, and we say they need to be leaders, they need to be emotionally intelligent, they need to be generous, they need to be ambitious, they need to be committed, coachable, and consistent, and they need to do their best, your best, every single day. And so when we're looking at somebody across the table, we're going, do they meet all these points? And if they meet all these points, then we go, all right, that's a fit. And that was a journey to get there, because initially it's just like, all right, you need help? A real estate team is to help train people. And I'm like, no, a real estate team is not, there might be some, but that's not ours. Our goal is to help people become millionaires and help them own other businesses, create an incredible legacy, have a balance in life. And you can't do that with everybody, especially if somebody's like, oh, I'm gonna just come train and then leave. And we think that we provide the value that allows them to be able to do that.
Can you reiterate the 3 C's?
Committed, coachable, and consistent. Yes.
And you mentioned something about coaching, do you coach other groups?
Yeah, I have coaching clients across the country. Some of them are in mortgage, some of them are in real estate, some of them own a team, some of them are just individual producers. So, yeah.
Excuse me, I think I got it wrong. Capture is the first one, right?
Oh no, that was his 3 C's.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's capture, connect, and close.
thank you.
Awesome. You guys have been a really incredible group. I love the energy that we had today.
Thanks for my first time.
Thanks
I
for
appreciate
your time.
it.
I couldn't let you out of here on time because it's just not how I roll. So you're only 5 minutes past 5. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Thank you guys so much. You guys have a great rest of your day. You're at an incredible, I love the leadership that you guys have here. So congratulations to you guys on your choice. And best of luck out there getting more business. Thank you.